Happy Monday, MFFLs. You got Harrison Graham and Jeffrey Cooperstein with you here on Dallas Mavericks today. The Mavs are 4-2 after a win over the Paolo Banchero-less Orlando Magic last night, Coop. Klay Thompson, Maxi Kleber, lots to talk about, plus the Mavs' biggest problem. Let's start with the free agent acquisition, Klay Thompson, and kind of analyze what we've seen from him through 6 games so far.
Yeah, it's been an interesting first 6 games for Klay. When you look at the field goal numbers, averaging 12 field goal attempts per game, 9 of those being 3-pointers. He's hitting 37%, so it's still at a good clip. I've seen some stuff online on Mavs Twitter about how the Mavs aren't using him enough and how they just don't get him into enough offense. And I gotta say, I kind of disagree. And I know his numbers are down, but it doesn't feel like he's just not part of this offense. It just feels like they're trying to get into the flow of things and trying to figure it out, and we're 6 games into the season.
Yeah, I mean, the first couple games, he obviously averaged a few more points, but look, the field goals are down, obviously. But at the same time, look, he joined a team with 2 high-volume scorers.
Exactly.
And Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving. I don't think the Mavs sold him a bill of goods like, hey, you're going to be taking 18 shots a game. I mean, now maybe can you get him up to that 14, 15 range? Possibly. I think that could happen. But, I think what I've seen so far has been fine. I think he's actually I don't want to say been good on defense, but maybe slightly better than expected. He had a couple of steals one game that I thought were pretty impressive.
I'll go as far to say he has been pretty good. I mean, he's way better than advertised. I thought on the defensive end, he's guarding 2s and 3s at a pretty high level. He's getting a couple steals here and there, and the Mavs are asking him to do a good amount on defense, and I do think he's done a very good job there. And obviously, I would like to see Klay get a few more shots, but it's not like he's being ignored on the offensive end. It's not Kristaps Porzingis in the playoffs where they're just telling him to go sit in the corner, and if the ball comes, the ball comes. It's not like that. Would I like to see them run a few more sets for him maybe early in the game to get him involved? Sure. But I have no cause for concern about his fit with this team.
Yeah, I feel fine about where Klay's at right now. Hopefully the percentages go up a little bit, especially from 3. You'd like to get that in the 39-40% range, but kind of had a clunker last night so that, when you're early in the season like this, Scoop, you have one bad game, your percentages can shift 3-4 points. So I think he was 38.7% going into last night.
Just
now
1 of 5 from 3 last night.
37. So, yeah, I mean, he's going to be in the high 30s, hopefully low 40s from 3. And I think just keep plugging away there. I think, like you said, we're 6 games in.
We've got 76 more of these. We can't panic.
And they're 4-2, and I don't really feel like they've played that great yet. So
no,
I think they're fine right now. And
they played their best first half of basketball by far last night, and then they kind of coasted for the second half. I thought the third quarter was actually pretty sloppy, but the game was pretty much over by then. So they haven't really put a full 48 together. Maybe that happens tonight against the Indiana Pacers. We'll see. I think everyone's going to be available and ready to play since they were able to sit most of the first quarter. So should be interesting to see what happens.
Should be a good test tonight against a team that can obviously score. Great Klay start to the Mavs in his Mavs tenure, A, B, C, D, or F. I'd give it a solid B. I mean, he hasn't blown me away, but he hasn't, I think he's been like that steady number 3 type of guy. That's what you need him to be.
He's exactly what I expected he was going to be. So I would also give it a B. Is there room for improvement? Sure. Is it time to panic right now? No.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're panicking, that's just ridiculous based on what we've seen so far. All right, shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. Basketball in full force, still got football going on, hockey underway as well, and daily fantasy made easy with PrizePicks. All you got to do is pick 2 or more players in your lineup, as long as it's players on 2 different teams or more, and choose more or less based on the stat projections PrizePicks provides. Create an account today at prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS and take advantage of the deal they're running right now. When you play for just $5, you're going to get a $50 bonus straight into your account if you are a new customer. So follow those steps, use code CLNS, and then fire your first $5 entry. We got a little 3 play tonight here for the Mavericks. Daniel Gafford, more on his points and rebounds. Klay Thompson, more on his points And then Miles Turner going to take more on his points as well. That's 10 to win 50 on that one. But again, if you just play for $5, 2 or more players, you're going to get that $50 bonus right away. So go to prizepicks.com/CLNS. Use the code CLNS. Pick more, pick less. It's PrizePicks. Shout out to PrizePicks for sponsoring today's show. All right, Coop, what's going on with Maxi Kleber?
Not a whole lot is the answer. He's expected to miss his 5th straight game tonight against the Pacers. It was unlikely he was going to play on this homestand to begin with, so hopefully he plays later in the week. I doubt he plays Wednesday against the Bulls, but I think that's the earliest we see him. And we're at a point where I kind of think the Mavs need him because the lack of bench production right now is one of, I think, the biggest issues surrounding this team so far. And they need everybody healthy they can get. And I know you're not relying on Maxi Kleber to score 10 points a game, but could he make a couple of threes and kind of help alleviate that bench scoring problem that the Mavericks have? I do think so. And when you have nights like the other night, for instance, where Daniel Gafford and Derek Lively were non-existent, instead of playing Dwight Powell, you can up Maxi Kleber's minutes a little bit, and you have that third option as the center. So I do think they need him healthy, and they need all the help they can get with him.
Yeah, I mean, something you and I talked about a lot this offseason is that, like, this team could go 11, 12 deep on any given night, and I would say the bench has been pretty underwhelming.
It's been pretty disappointing.
If you want to question Klay, who I think has actually been pretty solid, like compared to like what you're getting out of your bench, which isn't that much, like that's a much bigger issue. Like if you ask me, like Quentin Grimes has had 1 or 2 decent games.
He was okay last night,
but he's not giving you a ton. Najee Marshall played pretty well last night, but Derek Jones has been significantly better with the Clippers. I mean, that's going to be something to monitor. Obviously, you're getting good production out of your 2 centers, so that's a good sign. But yeah, I mean, you need a couple players among your bench guards and wings. Dinwiddie's done nothing. He had 1 good game. A couple of these guys,
Hardy's having issues, with turnovers and defense and whatnot.
And it doesn't. The good news about having all these options is it doesn't have to be the same guy every night. But like on any given night, you need 2 or 3 players off your bench to give you production, and that has not always been the case so far.
Yeah, it hasn't happened, and they're still searching. And maybe as we get closer and closer to the trade deadline, that's the biggest need that the Mavericks try to address is a true scoring man off the bench who can go get you 13 or 14 a game and just be a consistent guy. It wouldn't surprise me if the Mavs go that route. Again, we're early in the season and they're still trying to figure everything out, but if we get to 20 games in and this is still an issue that continues to trend that way, it wouldn't surprise me if the Mavs go look for external options.
Yeah, it's early, but keep an eye on that. Of course, we'll cover any move that happens with this basketball team, so subscribe to the channel. Videos almost every single day. Coop's trying to do at least 1 watch party per week.
We'll be going live Wednesday against the Chicago Bulls, so stay tuned for that.
Wednesday night. Lock us in for that. Coop will be live with you guys. So subscribe right now. We got you covered throughout the season. Oh, it's always fun, Coop, when the officials are on the screen.
Yes.
Let's talk about an alarming trend here, Coop. We were talking about this pre-show, and that is the fact that the Mavs are fouling quite a bit early on in the season, actually 3rd most in the NBA.
Believe it or not, this is not a Bash the Refs session, and I know I'm the president of Bash the Refs Club. But yeah, the Mavs are 3rd in fouls per game in the NBA right now behind the Grizzlies and the Pacers. And it seems to be a problem. Like, they're just committing too many fouls, especially their bigs and wings that are getting into foul trouble. They're forcing them off the floor, and they're having to go deeper probably into their rotation than they necessarily would have liked. And plain and simple, they're committing too many fouls. I think they have to figure out how to defend without fouling. And I will say this. The NBA has sort of reverted back to where they were pre-All-Star break last year, where they're calling it a little bit softer. You're getting a little more whistle per game. You're not able to make as much contact as you might have been able to from February on last year. And I do think that's affecting how the way that the Mavs play defense, because we know basically after the All-Star break last year, the Mavs were quite literally the best defensive team in the NBA. And now that they've gone back to sort of the beginning of last year where the Mavs did struggle on defense, I think that's absolutely played a factor. But at the end of the day, they're just committing too many fouls.
It is startling watching like Olympic basketball versus the NBA, like how differently it gets officiated. Like you can't hand check in the NBA. They call pretty much all touch fouls now, which, look, I get it. They want points to be up, but it's like, come on, guys. Like, every once in a while, you got to let these guys be a little physical. Here's what Jason Kidd had to say. He said, we got to be better. We're out here hacking. There's smart fouls and there's bad fouls. We have a ton of bad fouls. It's all coachable. It's all fixable. It's not the referees. It's us. We got to be better. So he's, taking on some accountability, but also challenging his guys like, hey, don't bitch at the officials. A lot of this is under our control. We gotta clean this up a little bit and get back to good technique.
Absolutely, and I do think the Mavs have played, okay defense for the most part as a team, but this is a trend that's kind of been, alarming to start the season, and it's been multiple guys. Like, I think Luka had at least one game where he had 5 fouls. Washington had a game where he had 5. Gafford and Lively both had at least 4 in one game. So they are running into trouble where they're committing too many and they're getting guys into trouble to the point where they have to be off the court, and that's just not something you want to see.
Especially with the bench not playing that well right now. If you want the Mavs to stop fouling, hit that like button on today's video. The good news is, Coop, is I would say this team as a whole is probably playing at a B- level.
Oh, yeah.
And they're 4-2, so playing some good hoops. Got a good win at Minnesota last week. So keep plugging away, work through the kinks, and win your fair share of games. And, again, you're looking to peak in February, March, on into the playoffs. So, there's always going to be some early season challenges when you
for sure
bring in some new faces. So
we'll
I think all things considered, you feel pretty good about where this team is.
Absolutely, and we'll dive into this later in the week, but I do think you really need to take advantage of your games against the East because we know how tough the West is. The East just isn't as good, and I do think you have to go. I think the Mavs won 19 games against the East last year. It's probably got to be 19 or more this year in order to keep pace in that Western Conference. So they got to keep winning these games against the Eastern Conference. You got the Pacers tonight. You got the Bulls on Wednesday. So the Mavs got to keep pace here and keep doing what they're doing against the East, which is usually domination.
Yeah, no doubt about it. He's Jeffrey Cooperstein. I'm Harrison Graham. Hit that subscribe button on the way out. We'll have a video tomorrow and then watch party Wednesday.
I'll be at the game tonight, so come say what's up.
All right, go check out Coop. See you later.